Okay. Good day, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Today is the second lecture for the ISO 27001. All of you attended the first lecture, or if you didn't, did you saw the video for the first lecture?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So we are following up with the ISO 27001 project. And as I mentioned before, this is a quite important project. And it's a real implementation. I mean, you will learn real ISMS implementation. So before we start, actually last time we spoke about information asset management, which is domain, I believe 8. I saw you a couple of templates about information asset register. We're going to see one more today. And today we will be talking about access control. So access control is a domain inside ISO 27001. And I believe if you are studying CISSP or CISSP, you went through the explanation of access control, except today we will explain what exactly is the access control implementation. I mean, you may know the definitions, but how can we implement access control? What is access control in the first place? But before we start, let me tell you about the organizations that we are working with related to implementing ISMS. Last time was more as an introduction, but today, starting from today, it will be kind of realistic. We will be talking about the implementations, the projects that we are really doing right now. Now, the project, it's for a government entity. This government, they have different, they have a CEO, and they have different departments. They have project departments, they have IT departments, they have marketing department, sales department, operational department. The point here is that you need to implement the ISMS in all the departments. This is not to be done only in IT, but in all departments. By the way, our lecture today is going to be around 50 minutes, and then we're going to leave 10 minutes in case anyone has any question. So starting from today, you need to think, or you need to consider working on this organization structure. So it's better to take few notes while we are talking. That it's an ISM implementation for a government entity, which is quite important. This entities, they have around 6 different departments, and under departments there is different section, but we're going to talk department wise. Okay. So what is our topic today is access control. Before moving to access control and see how we can implement the access control, we need first to go through the first or the previous domain briefly, just to discuss a brief point about that. Now, I requested an assignment last time, and I only received 2 from 2 of you. And I told you that the objective of this project is to get real life experience. I mean, if you spend in the full week 20 or 25 minutes to do the assignment, at least you'll end up with something. So, I suggest, it's up to you guys, it's not a mandatory, but I suggest that whatever assignment I give you, to do it, because you will end up with the full ISMS implementation. You will learn exactly the process and the document and everything. But if it's just for watching video, I can record them offline and upload them to our group, and that's it. Okay. So I think it's better to take that realistically. This is why I did this project, and I want people to get involved in that. So let me remind you the last assignment that I gave you. I asked you to do a standard yourself. So I asked you to do a document like that. You can name it whatever you want. And inside this document, I wanted you to create different tabs, a domain for each tab. So for instance, you will find here information asset management. This is the domain for information asset management. This is what we spoke about last time. and you put all the control number and the description from the control. I will share the standard with all the enrolled students in the information security career path because they need to have the standard. So you put here the control with the number, okay? And you just write the controls that you understood. Do not just copy and paste, but whatever I explain, write it down and put the control number and keep that as a checklist. When you go to an organization who want to implement ISMS, you will have your own checklist. You will ask them, did you implement information, do you have an information asset register? Yes or no? Do you review them frequently? Yes or no? This register includes the custodian, the owner, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I did that for the information. This is actually for the previous domain. I will do it myself, and later on I'm going to share it with you, but I want you to do your own. I want you to have your own ISMS standard, taking from the standards that I will share with you with the information security career path student and from different templates. But you have to end up with something that you will explain to the business department. I mean, you're going to have to go to each department of this organization and explain to them what is an information asset register, how it gets reviewed, how frequently it should get reviewed, what should be the content, and so on and so forth. Okay. So this was the first assignment. Second assignment, I asked you to send me a template of an information asset register, a template that you can that you understand the content of it and that you can explain it to all the department. I only received 2 of you guys, so I think, you know, I suggest that all of you who are attending this project to do the assignment, send it to me, because you need to end up with some good experience. Besides, if you do the assignments that I share with you, then you will have an certificate of experience, and you can use my contact as a reference because you really worked on the project. Okay. Now let's talk about access control. So access control is one of the domains there. And going to the standard. So this is the asset management. I will share the standard with the career path student. Let's go to the access control. This is the access control. Now this is domain number 9. I told you are not taking them in order. We are taking them according to their simplicity. So here, first one, access control, and the description that an access control policy should be published. So it's one of the questions when you go to any organization. Do you have a policy for access control? We're going to see how the policy look like. Let me show you, because I copy and pasted in this Excel sheet, so it will be easier to read. So let's access control. Control number A9, which is domain 9.2.2, that maintain a security repository of all information system access control. What does it mean? It means that whatever information critical that you have, it should be controlled with an access control. Let me simplify. Assume that you have a document that includes all your customer information, contact information, balance, financial information, all those information that you have. Those are very important information. If you lost it and one of your competitor was able to get it, right, this will do a lot of damage to your business. So those information, is it right to keep it in a document on your desk so anyone who's around can open this document and see all your client information, or it should be kept on a computer or a file and protected with a password? This should be the ideal solution, right? Since this is critical, so those information assets should be kept with an access control on it. Access control means a password, a biometric with a fingerprint, but not all people will be allowed to check this document, only authorized people. So according to the first control, when you go to any organization and you check what information do you have, so they will show you some document on their computer. Okay, those documents are important. How can you make sure that only authorized people can access this document? Do you have a password on them, or on those files, or on this program? Do you have a password? Is it one password with all the user, or each user has its own password? Okay, so the point here is that the critical information should be protected with an access control. Let me remind you that we are not just talking about the digital information, but even if you have like an archive or a data center where you have all your server and so on. So are you allowing everyone to enter in this data center where all the server and include all the information? Or do you have an access control and you are giving people card? So only people who hold this card can log into this data center. So I'm not talking about only digital access control or only digital information. I'm talking about all kinds of information. So what you need to ensure in this organization is that all the information assets, especially the critical one, has access control on them. Okay. Now, from where can I get the access control? The point, the access control policy. The point here is that you will not be able to go like this, the projects that we are doing right now. The organization has more than 5,000 employees. I cannot go to each employee and explain what is the access control, and if you have critical information, you have to protect them with a password or request from IT department to provide an access control for them. It cannot be done this way, right? What about if some people left and some new people join the company? Do I have to go through that again? No. The point here, as I mentioned last time, is that you need to have an access control policy. And you just tell people, guys, go and read the access control policy, right? The policy is the organization law. If you don't read the policy and you do something wrong, you will get responsibility. You cannot say that I didn't read the policy. It's like the law. If you are driving your car and you break any law, like you break a signal light or you did something wrong, if you are not aware of the law, you will not take responsibility? Definitely not. You will take responsibility for that. Same idea for information security, that you need to explain to the people who get hired to this organization, guys, there is a law related to the information that you are dealing with. And those law, it's called information security policy. You need to be aware of. If you didn't read them, if you ignore them, you will take responsibility if anything went wrong, right? So you have to start by implementing by getting the policy. And from where can I get the policy? Do you remember last time I told you that there is different website from where you can get the policy, and this is going to be your first assignment today. I want you to get a proper access control policy. Please take a note about that. So if you go to Sense, this is actually a good source. But still, if you have a different source, it's fine. And you go to resources, you will find here security policy project. You will find a lot of template here. So you can take one of those and consider it as a policy. So you can check for an access control. You may have to do some research, but it could be here in general. Okay, I'll check one and I'll send it to you, because I believe there was one policy for access control, except I don't know where exactly they kept it. Anyway, so you need to have a policy that it's going to be like the regulation or a law for anyone who's working there. Okay. So here he's asking you that all information need to have access control. Now, let me have a small discussion about that. Assume that you went to this organization and they have different departments. Okay. Let me get back to my presentation. So this is the organization structure. And as we were saying, they have different departments. So you went to one department like project department. You went there and you asked those people, guys, what information do you have? They told you have all the organization project that is running right now, all the projects that we closed earlier, all the projects that we're going to start. So what do you think about those information? Are those critical for the business or not? Definitely, because if they lose or any of those information gets sold or it went to a competitor or it got lost, any damage happened to this information, it will affect the business of this organization. So those are very critical information. Your second question will be, according to our discussion last time and today, do you have a list that include all those projects? Right? This is called the information asset register. So your second question will be, do you have a list that include all those projects? I mean, how can you track them? How can you know if this information was lost or stolen, or you should have them in an information asset register? So this should be your second question. Third question, according to today's discussion, which is the access control, you're going to ask them, okay, where are you keeping those project information? They will tell you, we are keeping them on a computer. Okay, show me. So they will open the computer for you, and then they're going to open a folder where they are keeping all the information. And then you open any file, it gets open. It doesn't have a password, anything on them. So this is a breach of the access control. You have critical information for the business. It's not confidential. You cannot ensure that only authorized people will have access to those information, right or wrong. So according to the controls that I just show you, that you need to tell them, okay, you need to put a password on this file and give this password for only authorized people to check this project. But if you kept them available for anyone, you may end up losing the project. Those information maybe get exposed. So this is what I'm talking about. The second point in access control, if I do that, if I do assign a password on all those files and use the same password with all the people who are working in a project, is it a right approach? Is it a right a good practice to have one password with all the machines? With all the user. If you have one computer at work that has critical information and all the employee in this office have the password for the same computer, is it a right practice? Definitely not. Why? Because you will not have accountability, in a sense that if you lost something from this computer, how can you know who's responsible for that? Everyone is using the same computer, using the same password. Everyone will say, no, I may have the password, but also my friend have a password. So you will not have an accountability. You will not know who's responsible for it, right? But if you give people different password, so each one will have his own username and his own password. And if everything went wrong, then you can check who logged in using which account and then stole the information or damage the information. You will be able to know who's responsible for what. So having the access control and having different account for different user. My third question related to access control. Access control could have different format. Okay, it could be a password. It could be a biometric. I mean, you can log into a place or a facility or a computer using your fingerprint. Now we have those smartphones. You can log into the smartphone using your face recognition, right? Which one should we implement? If you go to this organization and you suggest that we need to implement access control on our critical information, they will tell you, okay, should we buy just like a software that protect our information using a password, or should we buy something with biometric, or should we buy a token device? You know, banks right now, they are giving to their employee a token that generate a password every 60 minutes. So the password keep changing. Which one should you select? Guys, feel free if you have any answer to reply back. Yeah, exactly. What you have, what you are, what you know, I agree. But what I'm saying is those may have different prices. I mean, if you buy like a biometric device that you can like install on your computer, so only using your fingerprint you can log in. This is expensive. Now they are, by the way, they are selling flash disk with biometrics, so no one can use it except with a fingerprint. It costs around maybe I think $190. So my point was, what should you suggest to this department? They will ask you, should we spend money getting like what can we say, getting expensive access control, or should we buy something cheap? So my question is, what should you suggest? Okay, the answer will be according to the criticality of the information. Okay, if the information, it's, you know, they are important but not critical, I can buy something simple like a tools or a software that will assign a password on those files, right? Because I know that password is not that 100% secure, but at least I'm going to have some access control on it. While if those information are like bank information, financial information, military information, government, then I have to spend money, because if it gets lost, it will damage the reputation of the place. It may have financial impact on the place and so on. So how much should I spend? It depends on the information that you are securing, right? So here, when we are talking about implementing access control, it's not a checklist where you can go to any department and tell them you have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have to know what information they have and how much they should spend on it, right? You should recommend. But if you think about it and ask people to buy biometric, which is quite expensive, on all their devices, you are asking them to spend much more money than what is those information worth. So are you getting my point? I agree, biometric, it's quite expensive, but again, it depends. So not all solution are applicable to everywhere. So as an information security specialist, you need to make sure that critical information are secured with an access control. Let me repeat to you, are we talking about only digital information, or we are talking about all information types? Digital, hard copy, soft copy. You are getting my point, right? I mean, this will include things like data centers, like secure area in this facility. Also, you will be responsible for that. Sometimes you go to the organization, you enter inside the organization, there isn't any security guard outside, and you find yourself inside the organization, inside their meeting room. This is under access control. You don't have a security guard outside that may ask you, where are you going? Give me your information. This is a type of access control. Not necessarily is digital, it's something like technical, but you are getting my point. My point is, what you need to make sure is that the information assets, the critical ones, the important ones, the classified one, need to have an access control. This is the first point. What kind of access control? It's up to them. It depends on the criticality of the information. Should I get biometric? Should you get, this is not your role. You need to make sure that they are implementing access control and select the one right to their type of information that they have. You need to make sure that there is an access control policy in place. I will send you a sample. I will download one and send you a sample. And I'm going to ask you to also search for another access control policy and send it to me. But you need to make sure that, because as we mentioned in the previous lecture, all policy or all information security system need to be documented. Everything that we're going to talk about, it needs to be documented. So making sure that all the information repository is secured with an access control, making sure that they are selecting the right one. What else do I need to know about access control? Now, access control could be something simplest. Let me give you a small example. Most of the organization, they will have share folder. I noticed that in many organizations, they have a share folder where they will keep some file and share this file with the user inside the department. And you can check, you can right click on the folder, go to properties, and go to sharing, and you will see how many people are allowed to access this folder, right? So properties, and then we can go to sharing, and we can see if this folder is shared. It's not shared, but if it's shared with whom, and who got permission for this folder. Now, this is the type of access control. You are allowing people to, so here you can share this folder and you can assign permission and type of permission. Now, if I assign it to be allowed to everyone on the network, this is not right. So share folder is an example of a data repository with access control. Now, getting back to my point, are you giving permission to all the employee of the department? Do they need to use the information that they have in this folder or not? So this is one of the things that we always check, and it's a finding in any organization. You check their share folder, and you will find that they are sharing the folder with everyone inside the organization, which is not right. You just need to share the folder with the people that need to know. Okay. So this is a sample of share folder. The third point inside the access control standard that need to be implemented, which is the review. You need to make sure that the access control get reviewed frequently. And also this is one of the gaps that we always find in the organization. Because maybe I'm giving access today to my system to 10 employees. And then one of them, he left the company. But because I'm not reviewing the access control frequently, I was not aware of that. Then he can connect remotely from any place and he can do whatever damage he can. So it's quite important to frequently check the access. You are not the one who's doing it. Each department will do that, but you need to teach them. You need to tell them, guys, you have to review the access for each of your system, even the share folder. The access for the share folder need to be reviewed frequently, and you need to have an evidence that you are doing that. It could be an email sent to your manager, tells them that I review all the access and nothing changed, or this guy left, or this guy moved to another department, we need to move it. But each department need to move their access to review their access frequently. How frequently they need to do that? The common thing, it's twice per year. And they need to have an evidence, because when an audit will come, even for the certificate, they will ask them, are you reviewing your access frequently? Yes, show me an evidence. It could be an email that you sent to your management. It could be any evidence that you are doing it, but they will not take it for granted that you told them that, so it's reviewed. It's not like that. So please take a note about that, because you're going to write it inside the Excel sheet. So you need to have all data need to have an access control repository of data. This access control need to be selected according to the criticality of information, biometric or password. The access control need to be reviewed frequently. What else do you need to make sure inside your checklist regarding access control? That each user should have a user ID and password, and not just a password. Okay, guys, what do you think about that? I have a system, and I'm going to give people only a password. They will not have. What is the importance of the user ID? when you log into your email, is requesting only a password or it requesting user ID and a password? I don't know if you are writing anything. Okay. The user ID is for accountability, as I told you. So when I have user ID Atif and I have a password, whatever password is, because password it's saved encrypted. I mean, I cannot know the people password from the domain controller or from anywhere else. So what if I'm just using a password for people? I do not give them username. Everyone has his own password. He creates his own password and he's using this password to log in to the system. What if something went wrong? And then I need to know who did it. If I check the password, I will not be able to read it because each password is encrypted. So I will not know which password has been used. And this password belongs to whom exactly. But having the user ID, I can know that this guy logged in at this time and he's the one who's changed in this record. So you should make sure that everyone has user ID and have a password. Okay. Can I use one user ID for all of them? Like administrator. Can I use administrator? All user have and user ID administrator with different password? What do you think? This will lead to the same results, that if something went wrong, you will not know which one logged in because they are all using the user ID. So each one should have a separate user ID and a password. This is also you need to make sure that it's get implemented. Okay. Proper authentication technique, we already spoke about that it should be based on the criticality of information, but also it should be validated based on the username and password. And it should be controlled somehow in a sense of, you notice if you try to log into your Gmail account like 5-6 times wrong with the wrong password, what will happen? Anyone faced that before? You try to log into your web account, Gmail, Hotmail, and you wrote the password wrong for 5 or 6 times. Do they keep trying, or after a while they will block the account? Because maybe this is a brute force. This is also part of access control, that you should have some limited number of login attempts, because maybe someone is trying different password until he accesses to the system. This is called brute forcing. Okay, so this needs to be in place as well. Encryption, we have a full lecture about encryption, so I don't want you to think about it right now. Yes, this one is quite important. Allocate access privilege on a restricted basis. Okay, so what do we mean by allocate access privilege on a restricted basis? Now, the concept in access control is called least privilege. Okay, as humans inside your organization, you have different files, different folders. Each folder has some information, and you are giving access to all the employee inside your department. Someone join your department and you need to give him access. Okay, do you need to start giving him access to all the folders and all the system? Maybe in the future he's gonna need it. Or do you need to give them the lowest privilege, and in case he needs higher, then you can give him higher? What should be the best approach? The best approach is to give him the least privilege. So anyone who get access to the system, he should start with, or technical team should give him least privilege. In case his job need more privilege, according to that, his head of department can request a higher permission for him, because whatever he's doing, he need higher permission. So the point here is that you should not start with the higher. What I noticed in this organization is that whoever joins, they give him admin account right away. They give him the highest privilege because the technical guy is there. He don't want to get disturbed every 5 minutes with a phone or an email. Give me higher permission. Give me higher permission. It shouldn't be like that. It should be that justified. So the permission that will be given to new employee need to be the least privilege, and then it should be very restricted. And if he requests a higher permission, it should be justified, and it should be approved by his head of department or head of section. This is very, very important. I'm telling you the points that we always find gaps in an organization. As you can see right now, till now, since last time, we are not doing anything technical. We are just making sure that the best practice is getting implemented. And this is what we are doing. So you go there, you have your checklist. What information do you have? Where you are keeping them? Do you have access control on them? How you are requesting the access control? This actually, it's not covered yet. We'll cover it in a few minutes. What privilege those people have? Show me the shared folder. How many people have access on this shared folder? When was the last time you reviewed those access? This is what we are doing. It's not a technical topic, but it's quite important, because what I'm trying to teach you is how to convert those controls to a real implementation. Okay. So the privilege is very, very important. You need to make sure that very, very few people has higher permission. Very, very few people has admin permission. This is very, very important. Next point will be, how are we requesting the permission? And please take a note about that, because this will be one assignment I want you from your side. Now, in the organization that we are doing the project right now, they have different departments. Okay, this is the organization. They have different departments, and a new employee get hired in the marketing department or project department. Someone new get hired. You need to give him access to the email. You need to create an email for him. You need to give him access to the internet. You need to give him access to the systems that he will use. How are you initiating that? From where should you start? You got my point? From where should I start the process? As an organization, you should have a form that the manager fill, or the new employee can fill, that I need access to I needed to have an email on the domain, on the organization domain. I need to have access to system ABC. I need to have access to the data center room. I need to have access to this area. And he need to fill this form. And it should be signed, approved, and signed by their manager. And then it will be sent to the technical department, IT department, so they will provide him the access. So you should have a process requesting access from the beginning. Okay, this is very, very important. I want you to search online or even create a new form, which is requesting access to an organization system and resources. You can search online, you can create your own, but it should be done according to a standard process, not manually. Not someone get hired, then his manager will call the IT department, hello, guys, give permission to this guy for this and this. It shouldn't be done this way. It should be documented, signed, and kept. Because if anything went wrong, the manager will take responsibility. Why did he request access for this specific system for the new user? His job was not related, and then he stole information or he did something wrong. Okay, so this is going to be also one of the tasks that I will request from your side. Okay, I can see some question. We're going to have like 10 minutes for the question. But let me finalize that, and then we're going to talk about the question. Last control from in the access control policy, last control, which is, and actually this is not, we are not finding it, very few people are doing it. I mean, it's there, but we know that realistic is not doing, which is reviewing all logs of physical access. As I told you, this is one of the challenges that we are facing. We always request from employee, from managers, and from department, guys, someone need to be responsible to review all the logs and all the permission frequently. But people are not doing that. And it's always an finding in any business, in any audit. So you need to make sure inside during the internal audit that we're going to talk about later, what is the internal audit and what is the proper way for doing an internal audit effectively, that people are reviewing the logs, are reviewing the permission frequently. Maybe permission you can convince them to do that, but logs, they always do that whenever there is a problem. Some information get lost, something gets stolen from the company, then they will check the logs, the surveillance cameras, the logs, and so on. But this actually needs to be done frequently, even once every 3-4 months, that checking the logs. Anything abnormal, maybe you find that one user logged in the same time from 2 different locations. It's an indication, okay? But it's one of the things that need to be kept inside your checklist. I want you to create a checklist like that, with your own way, writing whatever you understood from the class today, having a checklist for the access control, using the standards that I will share with you in our Information Security Career Path group. So this was about the access control domain, what need to be implemented in different organizations. And again, I'm not talking about only the digital access control. I'm talking about all kind of access control. So now we're going to take like 10 minutes for questions. So now I believe we cover 2 different domains. Can you please create your own checklist from the standard and write them down? It's very important. Okay, I can see a few questions here. Let me go through them. Okay, we have good interaction actually. Exactly, need to know. So far no question, but only people comments, which is quite good actually. I feel that people are following up. We will talk about SOC later on, don't worry. We'll talk about HIPAA and SOC, and we're going to map it to the ISO. So don't worry. Okay, guys, because it's quite hard. I think there was a question from Isar. If you can like raise the question with the mic, I think this will be easier. Since we don't have that much of people today, only 10 people, so we can talk together instead of write them down. It's not quite clear.
Yeah, there's a question from an Esther there. Esther, are you still on the phone?
Yes.
Yeah. I just typed it for her. She asked that, does the ISO auditor teach clients or staff how to complete all these documents?
No.
That's I believe she's referring to the checklist you're talking about.
Yes, and, yes. No, actually, we are talking about the implementation part, not the audited part. The auditor is not allowed to recommend anything or teach them anything. This is against the rule. But what we are doing right now, we are teaching the implementation part. We are not doing the implementation, but you are working on an organization. You are showing them, for instance, finance department. They have very critical information, but they don't have an access control on them. They have to request that from the concerned department, which is the IT department, for instance, or asset department, if they need to put an access control on their room or office. Okay, so this is what we are learning in this training, that the implementation part. The checklist is for the implementation, making sure. Maybe it can be used for internal audit to make sure that it's in place, preparing for the external audit and certificate. Okay? So it's not really considered an external audit. The questions that I'm raising, it's just to make sure that the control are in place. But if we are talking about the external audit, we are not allowed to do that. Okay, a question came regarding the reviewing of the permission and reviewing for access control list and so on. How it's done? There isn't any like ways that it's mandatory need to be there. I mean, first, it need to be mentioned inside the policy that the access control list it's get reviewed frequently. This is need to be written inside the policy. Second, the way it's usually done, from my experience, that in any organization they have technical system and they have system under their control. So, for instance, if a department have a share folder which one of the department employee created, he can like check the permission, and he can print it, ask the manager to sign on it that those are the current people, or he can send an email to his manager, I check the share folder and those are the employee, please approve. So it could be just the email. But if we are talking about systems, assume that you have ERP, you have different systems. So what you're going to do, you as a department, business department, you will request from the IT department every 6 months, please send us a list of all the employee name, because usually you will not have access to that. So the IT will send you the list, you will review it, and if you need to modify, remove, add, you will do that, and then you're going to send an email for your manager for approval, because after all, it needs to be approved from your manager. It's not just reviewing. So evidence is usually emails or approval from the management in case of any change. Okay, gentlemen and lady, any other question? Okay, checklist, it's quite important. Template, it's quite important. After 3-4 classes or lecture, you will be able to relate everything together. Things will be quite clear to you. So please, whatever assignment we suggested, I strongly recommend that you are doing. So we will be like relates everything together, and it will be after a while quite easy to understand the full ISMS. Now we are taking domain by domain. We are showing you the control, how it will be implemented and so on. But after a while, you will be able to like relate all the domain to each other, and it will be quite clear to you. So unless anyone have any question, yeah, one last thing before I leave. Okay, does an organization need to have a general and policy? Okay, no, actually, any organization need to have policy, procedures, guidelines. Policy, it's divided 2 types of policy. We have user policy and we have technical policy. So for instance, we have a full class about policy. We may have an email policy, which is a policy explaining the proper use of email in organization, right? This should be, all employees should be aware of this policy, right? But we may have an encryption policy. This is only for the technical people, how to encrypt, how to keep the key, how to, and so on. So the policy, we don't have a policy and sub-policy, because don't forget, policy, it's one of the things that all employees need to be aware of. So we need to simplify the process, but it should be there. It's a law. It's the regulation of this organization. Okay. So usually we keep them in a share folder or on the company portal, and during the awareness, we explain to the employee what are the policy, how to find them, and what is the consequences in case you didn't follow the policy or you are not aware of the policy. We will have a full session about policy. Don't worry, it's quite important. It's one of the most important points that the auditor will look for. Okay, guys, before I forgot, I will create a group on WhatsApp and Facebook, so I can share the template, I can share the document and so on, because I believe maybe people get interested, some people will be interested in the project and some people will not. So I don't want to enforce that to everyone. So I'm thinking to create a group only for the ISO 27001, where I can share the document template standard for people who need to follow. But the problem I have, management. I have too many groups right now. It becomes very, very hard to manage all the group on Face and WhatsApp and so on. So I would really appreciate if someone, can help me in the managing the ISO group as a project. That would be great. So if someone suggests, just let me know, and I will really appreciate that. Okay. Should I share everything on the information security career path, and this will be considered used for the same group? Okay, Shafiq, thank you so much. Appreciate that. So we'll create a group for that, ISO 27001, and this will be only for this specific project, for the assignment, for the task, for the template. And I'm going to ask a couple of you guys. Thank you so much, Alexander. Also, you're going to manage I will make you admin on the Facebook group and Shafiq on the WhatsApp. This will simplify the process. Thank you so much. I will send you the schedule for the full project. I'm working on it. Each lecture, what we're going to take. And I will send you the standard. I want you to start working on it. I have some templates, but I want you to create your own as well, to search for it for your own as well, because I know that if I share with you all the documents that I have, you will end up reading nothing. But if you search, you are looking for, you are opening the content, you are checking, that will be great. I really appreciate your suggestion to manage the group and so on. This will be much easier for me, and I'll see you next Saturday. The recorded lecture will be shared with you maybe tomorrow by the end of the day. Any other questions, gentlemen? Okay, regarding the Smart Vault, I still have a problem with it. Just allow me 1 or 2 days maximum. I don't know what happened to it. I may move all the resources to a different portal and give you access, but we have a technical problem since around 4 days right now. So I'm working on it. Maximum 1 or 2 more days and everything will be fixed. Meanwhile, if you need any document, let me know. I'll send it by email. Christian. Okay. Thank you so much for your time today. It was really great. And see you next Saturday. Thank you.